you. Now I'm going to say a quick word of prayer. Dear Heavenly Father, thank you so much, God, for allowing us to come together tonight, Lord. I just pray for clarity and peace for these candidates as they speak to us, Lord. And I pray for open hearts and open ears for us to hear and understand what they're saying, Lord. I pray for boldness for every single person in this room to stand up for truth and righteousness, no matter what the situation is, God. And I just thank you for the many blessings that you have given us. In your name we pray, amen. Amen. Thank you, guys. So, like she said, this Turning Point chapter is really new, and it's for high school and college students, and the whole goal is to celebrate our freedom that we have here in America and talk about free markets and capitalism. So if you have any kids, high school or college age, that would love to be a part of it, please find me afterwards, and I would love to talk with you all. Thank you.
It's so exciting to have the next generation here partnering with us. So tonight's format, with only 4 candidates, we're going to give you each 12 minutes. So that 12 minutes is yours to spend however you see fit. Hopefully you spend about maybe half of it talking about yourself, and then the rest of it is going to be open to the audience. You guys can ask questions. They get to pick their favorite people, so hopefully they pick you. We will bring a microphone to you if they do select you. And we have these handy-dandy time cards. You will have a 6-minute, 4-minute, 2-minute, and 30-second. And Josh is going to be in charge of waving those around so you can see them. So we're going to start with the at-large candidates and then do Ward 4 and Ward 3. So we would like to have you introduce yourself, maybe say your visions, your goals for this seat, what you'd like to accomplish, and then we can turn it over to questions. So the first one, at large, we had 4 people file for this seat. We couldn't get a hold of Sonia Porter. And then Johnny Parks, he did send us a little response. He said that he had a meeting tonight, so he couldn't come. That is the same meeting that Christy is at right now, and she'll be here in just a little bit, just so you know. So we're going to kick this off tonight with Jess Squire. I'm going to get that down by the end of tonight. All right, welcome George, everybody.
Hey everybody, my name is George Desquire. I realized a little while back that when I went downtown Tulsa and filed 2 pieces of paper, it immediately turned me into somebody that people would be skeptical of. Anytime I say something, they go, "Can I really believe that?" Right? So I decided to take some of my time and ask somebody who knows me the best, that I've known and lived with for 23 years, to come and say some nice things about me. But she said no. So I guess I'm going to have to do it myself. And that puts me in an awkward position because I'm not a self-promoter. So I started out, I was born at a really young age to a couple of amazing people. They were 70s children. My dad graduated in 74, my mom in 76. My mom had the long, straight blonde hair with the tight jeans and the whole thing going through high school. My dad actually enjoyed riding a motorcycle, and he tells a story. He said he knows that I was riding with him at a 1.5 years old. Now, just sitting behind him, holding onto his belt. And he remembers that because he said, I fell asleep riding a motorcycle. And he felt me start to lose grip on his belt. And so he had to pull over and pull a couple of bungee cords out of his saddlebags and tie me to him until we got home. So, but this is the kind of people I was raised by. My dad, a motorcyclist, was part of the CMA after I moved down to the Tulsa area. He got a call from one of his chapter buddies, said, hey, this couple was on a long trip. They're going from Canada down to, I think, Tennessee, and their bike broke down just right after they left home. Can you come look at it? And so my dad says, yeah, I'll come take a look. And so he looked, he drove over there, and he looked at the motorcycle, and he said, man, it's something I can fix, but it's going to take a few days. And this couple, it was going to ruin their entire week's vacation, to go down and, go to a big rally. So my dad says, hey, let me take the bike back home on the trailer, and you guys just take my gold wing. Right? He never met them. But things were never as important to him as people. And that's the kind of character that he has, and that's what I grew up with. Care about people, tend to be a servant leader. I don't mind being in front of people most of the time. That doesn't bother me. But I try not to be the guy everybody sees. So I spent 25 years at Guts Church, still there. My wife and I got married there in '99. Spent 6.5 years in the elementary, and I taught every Sunday night for probably 3 or 4 years straight. So I really enjoy kids. I love watching them grow and come into their own. I've got a 13-year-old son who is Broken Arrow's only male middle school cheerleader. They got a few in high school, but to my knowledge, he's the only one that's ever been the male cheerleader in middle school. And he just took ownership of that. He was tumbling since he was little, and his tumbling coach would tell him, hey, if you would take this and you take it into cheer, you can write your own ticket anywhere you want to go to school. And so he grabbed a hold of that, and he's been pursuing it. And so now he's about to go into high school. He's applied for early college high school where you get an associate's degree by the time you graduate. Super sharp kid. He obviously gets that from his mother. So, no, you're fine. So this is where things get tough, because if I have to actually tell you about me instead of everybody else, I'm not real great at that. So, I've been here, like I said, since '97. I spent time waiting tables. I waited tables for 3 years here while I went to Rhema and graduated there in '99 with a 4.0. And don't let anybody tell you otherwise. It's not like it's that difficult, okay? If you show up to class and pay attention, you're probably can read the assigned material. It's all you need to do, and you will do well. But I was shocked at how many people failed or flunked out or whatever. But I tended to be the guy that was in the back of the room making jokes. I was listening, but I remember one time a friend of mine grew up right here in Broken Arrow. During one of the assemblies, he brought some kazoos, and we'd always practice the alma mater in the assembly. So everybody was singing the alma mater, and we were playing along with the kazoo. And so when my wife, a couple years later, was working with somebody I went to school with, and mentioned, he graduated 4.0, she goes, no, he didn't. And I was like, yeah, he did. No, he was the class clown. Not all smart people are solid, okay? All right, I'll move on to the important stuff. But I think it's important because when you vote for somebody, you need to know who they are, not just what they say they want to do or whatever. You need to know their baseline, where they come from, like what is their real character. And it's hard to know from somebody just standing up here talking to you. But my wife and I moved to Broken Arrow about 12 years ago. We love Broken Arrow the way it is. We love the fact that it's a big little city. We love the fact that neighbors care about one another and want to have block parties and engage with one another and help one another out and be there. And so that's one of the reasons I'm doing this, is because I want to protect that. I want to be the guardian at the gate that keeps out the crazies or crazy mindsets. And so with that, I will let that stand where it is for now, and I will take some questions if that's all right.
Does anybody have a question for George? All right, in the back, I'm coming to you.
Yes.
Oh, George, is that okay?
Yeah, absolutely.
can go do.
Always willing to help you out. When do you think most of your focus will be should you become the at-large person? And how do you plan on achieving what you wish to fix or focus on?
All right. Well, I will say I don't see a lot that needs to be fixed per se. However, that's why I count on people to let me know where they see issues. My focus, honestly, will be to maintain the autonomy that our citizens have in Broken Arrow. I got to see, my folks are still in Michigan. Yeah. So I got to listen to them talk about not being able to go to the grocery store and pick up paint or the hardware store or whatever it was, because the leadership there was locking down the entire state on a whim. And my whole thing is, not here, not in my house. That's not how we operate. People get to make their own decisions. So my focus, honestly, and here's the thing, I'm not an idea guy. I'll let you know right now. Do I have ideas and grand visions and stuff? No. What I am is I'm the guy that takes a grand idea and makes it better, and I can put nuts to bolts and make it happen. I've spent 22 years working for the same commercial drywall contractor, started out in the field not having ever seen a pair of tin snips or a chop saw, and worked my way up to one of their top foremen. They asked me to come into the office, and I've been in the office for 11 years, estimating and project managing. And so it's one of those things that's progression, but it's understanding the process and honing in on it and making it work the best. Bringing the all the moving parts together to a solid completion.
Any other questions? Questions for George? How are we doing on time, Josh?
I've got about 2.5 minutes.
2.5 minutes. Okay, George, what are you most excited to learn about the city of Broken Arrow and how it operates? What are some areas that you're not really, knowledgeable about that you're really excited to learn about?
Well, it's funny, I got to sit down with Mr. Spurgeon and kind of go over some of like all the departments and how they interact with one another, and I've been able to meet with some of the area heads. So I got to meet with the economic developer, meeting with the fire chief and the police chief and some others. And it's really, honestly, probably one of the most fun I'm having is finding out how many amazing people work at Broken Arrow and how they lead their department in such a way that it's always moving forward. But as far as like how it works, I mean, I feel like it kind of, it works like anything, as long as you have a good hierarchy where everybody knows their place and how to get what they need from the people in charge. It flows smoothly, and it seems like we've got a good team in place. So our job is just funneling them and directing and making sure that the team travels the right direction and accomplishes the right goals. And part of that, like I said, is keeping out the crazy, making sure that, because evil is insidious, guys. Evil is insidious, and it will work its way in slowly and innocuously if you're not paying attention, if you're not honing in and making sure you're asking the right questions. In my job, I have to pay attention to the details, the specifications, the plan details, and when there's been many times I've landed a project that we were not the low bidder on. But the reason that the project was landed was because I asked questions that were important to the project and gave the contractor confidence that we knew what we were looking at and we knew what it was going to take to give them the building that they desired. Thank you guys very much for your time tonight.
Thanks, George. We appreciate you talking in front of all of us for so long. Next, we have, Will, do you like to go by Will or William? Mr. Will Vaughn for At Large.
So I got some note cards, so I got to kind of old school it to keep me on topic, so I can hit everything and kind of tell you about myself and about me and what I'm doing. So first of all, I was born in Fayetteville, Arkansas, 1973, December 24th. So I was almost a Christmas baby. I was the surprise of the family. And I stayed there on a farm for about 5 years, and I moved to Broken Arrow in 1978, where I've been ever since. I moved here, lived off of 4th Street in an apartment there by Northeast Elementary, which is now a road, and that's where I spent my elementary days as a latchkey kid. Went to Central Middle School, which is now our administration buildings, which was kind of cool to talk about because my great-grandma also went there. And then I had 2 children that had the schooling life there at Central, at the old building. I then moved to North Intermediate, which is now Kirkland Sports Complex. Broken Arrow used to be divided North and South Intermediate, and that's where I spent my 9th and 10th grade year. It was fun. I got to play on Kirkland football field, so everybody that's old school Broken Arrow remembers those days of kicking the football into the tree. And then I moved on to the high school. And at the high school, it was the new big building, and everybody was wanting to come see it, and it was beautiful, and that's where I graduated. I got to raise kids here, that's where my kids got to graduate, and now I have grandkids going to Creekwood Pre-K, and I got a grandson that's at the freshman academy. Going through high school, I always wanted to serve. My dad's a nurse, my mom's a respiratory therapist, so medicine is kind of where I thought I wanted to be. And so I went to TCC and became a stroke tech. And those are the people in surgery that hand instruments to doctors, and I was kind of wanting to know what kind of physician I wanted to be. And I had a friend who said, "You're going to have to further your education. You want to be a doctor. You need a bachelor's degree to get in." I think, yeah. So he said, "Why don't you be a paramedic? You like serving people." And I said, "That's probably a good idea." So I went to Rogers University and got my degree in paramedicine. And doing that is when I started riding along with the fire department in IMSA. And then I thought, wow, that's how I want to serve. So I applied for the fire department, got on in 1999. Started working there, and still I had this urge to want to serve. So 2 things happened. The first thing that happened was I started going to nursing school, and I became a nurse. The other thing that happened is the fire department became politically active. In 2001, we as a fire department decided to back a candidate. His name was Craig Thurman. And we pushed that agenda, and we heard that this would help us. He came and promised us the stars. And that kind of fizzled out. But we saw that our voices were being heard. In 2003, we decided to keep going, so we backed Melissa Mahan and Tom Chatterton, and have been doing that as a fire department to current day, helping people. Up to 2018, 2019, I had to retire out due to an injury. So I no longer was a fireman, but I had this urge to still want to serve because I had a political background, if you will, pushing as boots on the ground, knocking on doors, shaking people's hands, and still wanting to do this. So today there's a seat available, and I want to take that next step and go for that. My biggest thing, being a fireman, is really public safety. I'm a team member with the fire department, and I saw myself as a team member with the police department. So, and that's the way they see me. They don't see me as a political candidate. They don't see me as someone that's out for his own agenda. So I'm kind of unique in the way that they see me, and they say, "Hey, I can talk to him. There's not going to be anything taken against me. There's nothing coming back on me. I'd like to see him there." So that I like that idea. Second is transparency. I'm really big with transparency. The question was asked, and has been asked by multiple people, where have you been the last 4 years? Well, the last 4 years, I've been working. I've been in healthcare. There was COVID. So I didn't get out in public. I didn't go out and mingle. I was working at urgent care and in hospitals taking care of people because while in the fire department, I also became a nurse practitioner. So I now do spine surgery is what I do at Advanced Orthopedics and work at urgent care behind Reese's there on 71st, and was exposed to COVID and had COVID 3 times myself. So I just didn't want to expose the public. So I've been kind of out of the limelight, if you will. So I thought it was important to start getting back into it and want to run and serve, and that's where I'm at today. Another big topic has been the growth in South Broken Arrow that I'd like to hit. I mean, it's crazy, it's great. Everybody's loving South Broken Arrow. It is getting bigger, but there's an algorithm that goes with it. Flow of traffic, number of houses, number of people that live there will equal businesses coming in and entertainment coming in that we need for the tax dollars. So I don't think that I can do much because the people that are in play right now at City Council are doing a great job, but I would like to augment what they're doing and help South Broken Arrow get bigger. Getting bigger, I'd like to see the streets out there quit with the 3-lane. I think we need 4-lane, 5-lane. Couple reasons. That helps public safety. That helps the fire trucks. It helps the police cars get through there easier when people pull to the side. It gets better egress when you're leaving businesses. It gets better into your neighborhoods. And so we're not congesting the stop signs and traffic lights. You sit there for 30 seconds, you move 10 feet, and you're waiting forever to get home. And lastly, one of my big points is no government mandates. I'm one that is against that for vaccines, for masks. I'm not for it. There are some people that thought that was kind of the way they wanted to go, but I'm just not for it and don't see it in anything that I do. And I work in healthcare. Doing surgery, we wear masks, but that's just so blood doesn't get on us. It's personal protective equipment. I don't enforce on me, so I'm completely against that. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to take a couple questions. After the questions, well, I'll be in the back. Please come talk to me. I have signs, I have literature. I'd love your support. I'd love your vote. And just see what you got.
All right.
Whoa.
Oh,
All right.
Matt's making sure we pay attention.
That was not a sign in anyone.
Matt, do you have a question? Anybody have a question for Mr. Vaughn? Josh, take that one.
Hey.
We've had rumors coming around town that one of the reasons, or one of the only reasons, that you would like to run is to get rid of or fire our current fire chief. Is that true?
That's a great question. So actually, that's not unique to me. That's been a rumor that's been going around for years. There's a rumor that was going around 2 years ago with other people that are given to city council about when they worked at the police department, and now it's being kind of shine light on me as far as that's what I want for the chief. Anybody knows anything about city council, you cannot hire or fire anybody in the city except for the city manager. That's not my job. It wouldn't be my job. You heard my points, why I think it's important to run, and hiring and firing someone is not on my list. So it's just that, it's a rumor, and thank you for the question.
Josh, do you have another one? One over here? Thank you.
In your opinion, what makes you better or more qualified than the other candidates?
I don't think I'm better. I think I'm unique. I've had roots here since '78. I've been to school here. My kids go to school here. My grandkids are going to school here. So I see the city differently. I worked at the city. I worked as a fireman, as a paramedic. So I got to see other people in the city. I got to see how the city works, and grew up with the city council. And so if you guys have been here, Tony Petrick, Whitaker, Chatterton, just a lot of city council members that I've seen through the time and see how the city grows and how we are growing. So I think that makes me very unique. And then lastly, I think I'm unique with no mask mandate, no vaccine mandate, which some on the council now are for that. So really, I appreciate you guys coming out. If you guys want to talk to me back there, I would love to shake your hand and meet you all. So thank you.
Okay. Thank you very much, guys. Okay, so those are 2 of the 4 candidates for the at-large seat. And as a reminder, you vote for all of these seats on the same day, April 4th. We're going to move on to Ward 4, is that right? And that is Joe Franco and Scott Udi. Scott was not able to come. He did send a message saying that he had a city planning meeting, and I could be wrong, okay, and I'll take the heat if I am. But as far as I can see, the only scheduled meeting is actually on the 27th, just so you're aware. So let's go ahead and welcome Joe Franco to give his little speech.
Thank you. Broken Arrow resident for about 21 years. Raising my 2 daughters in this community. It's just one of those, every year that I get older, you start to realize how precious and loving our community is. So you want to be a part of that. And you don't pay attention to it in your younger years. So as I move on, I realize I need to make a difference. I can't complain, I can't argue, I can't do any of that if I don't take that step forward and participate. That's why I'm here. I spent 28 years in the United States Air Force. First 4 years were active duty, stationed at Kirtland Air Force Base. I was a SEER survival instructor. Was gone about 300 days a year, which was awesome. I was young and single, no kids, so you got to see the world and it wasn't a big deal. Except at the end of that 4 years, you realize, holy smokes, you know, that wears and tears on you, even at a young age. I did my 4 years, transferred into the Guard, and almost immediately got on full-time at the Air National Guard up here in Tulsa. I've done everything from jet engine mechanic on the F-16, aircrew life support, started out as a SEER instructor. I've done command and control, logistics superintendent. I moved people and cargo throughout the world. My joke is that they love me when it's time to come home, but they hate me when it's time to leave. But that was the nature of the business. Finished up as an IT project manager in a cyberspace communications group, installing infrastructure, radars, towers, antennas. Basically the frontline communication to the tip of the spear. So we would go in after the combat comm guys would come in. They would come in and do tactical fiber, lay it on the ground. Well, they bring us in to make it strategic, put it in ground, manhole duct systems, still serving that tip of the spear. When you get involved with those guys and gals, you quickly learn how precious life is. And you get a more found respect of what they're doing for us. The stuff you see, the stuff that they do, it's unreal. And for us to be able to provide that support and that contingency just so they can talk back to, communicate back to their operations command, saves their lives and defeats the enemy, which is why we're able to gather here and have a glass of wine and have the public voice to speak, to vote, to do what you want to do. That's what makes America awesome. Well, let's get down to the city level. It all starts in municipal government. It all starts here. Whether anybody wants to say so or not, if they're at the state or at the federal level, it all starts here. It's grassroots from the cities. We dictate what our government needs to do. If we bend the knee, as you've kind of heard, they're going to walk all over us. So we've got to set those boundaries. We've got to take care of our citizens because this is our community. So my reason for running was, as a veteran, giving back to a community that's given so much to us. I mean, that was easy. Let me give back. Because Broken Arrow pours their heart out to the veteran community. If you don't really notice it, go down to the Veterans Park. It is one of the nicest parks I've ever seen that pays tributes to our veterans and our fallen. That was my original idea of running. Then I went to the 2021 town hall, up here just right down the street, and a young lady ran and had no idea, had no clue about what happened, how the city ran, anything about municipal government. Thought Nolan Square was the industrial park. I'm sure that just sets you off there, right? Don't talk about Nolan Square, whatever you do. But Had no clue. Never been to City Hall, and got 29% of the vote with zero knowledge of how our city ran. Changed my whole outlook. I cannot live here and let someone else run my city that doesn't have any idea. So I spent the last 2 years attending every city council meeting. I've been to budget meetings where I walk in, I'm the only citizen that walks into the budget meeting. I've been to events, ribbon cuttings, just to get the time that our counselors spend, which is a lot. So for the past 2 years, I've been making sure this is what I can do. Because the last thing I want to do is get elected. Oh, I can't do that meeting. I can't represent the city here. Can you move that meeting to another time, even though it's inconvenient for others? I didn't want to do that. So I spent that time researching and attending. Here I am, standing here today. 3 things I'm running for are running on a platform, public safety, which should be in probably everybody's #1 priority. Infrastructure. We talked about roads already. I don't know how much more we can talk about roads. The problem is with roads, it costs $1.4 million per lane mile. So if we want to do a 1 lane mile of 5 lane, we're approaching $6 million. Well, guess what? Who's paying for that? Taxpayers. Well, how do we pay for that? Sales tax revenue. Okay? We need to get businesses here, like you had said. We've got to have the roads to get businesses here, because if the traffic's not coming in, the businesses, they don't want to open up shop. Well, the double-edged sword is we can't get the businesses in yet because we don't have the roads. So it's a very fine line. We went 20, 30, 40 years, 30, 40 years with no raising of taxes, no street bonds, anything like that. We are now, but the problem is we're being reactive. We need to get to where we are reactively proactive. Because I don't think we're going to get to the point where we're proactive. Not in my days. Maybe our children can be. So we need to be reactively proactive in making sure that we can get that traffic in here, get the businesses in here, but more importantly, get traffic out. When they want to go, it's time to go. Let them out. Communication transparency, Will had talked about that. I think that's actually a pretty simple one, just because our city does a fantastic job of communicating. If there's something that you don't know is happening, it's not on the city, I promise you, because they put it all out there. So that's just easy for me to jump on that and say that's what I'm doing. But more specifically down to Ward 4. I want to be present. I want to communicate to specifically Ward 4, because that's who I represent, even though I represent the city as a whole, more specifically Ward 4. So I want to be present. I want to be there. I want to communicate. We're here. We're here to tell you all about it. I'm not a politician by any means, so this is kind of the uncomfortable part, right? But it's what you have to do to represent the city. That's pretty much in a nutshell. Some of the things that I do, I'll say real quick before questions. I currently sit on the Drainage Advisory Committee that I was current counselor appointed. I sit on the Zoning Ordinance Committee, which is the meeting that we were just at. I was able to step out a little early. I also sit on the Broken Arrow Veterans Center Board of Directors. Where's Janet? I got it this time. I got it this time. So I'm Board of Director on the Broken Arrow Veterans Center. I chair the mayor's, Broken Arrow Mayor's Council on Veteran Affairs. First time. Holy smokes. I chair that meeting. The mayor asked me, hey, would you mind? Absolutely. And that is a great meeting because we get all of the veteran service organizations or entities that are helping veterans in one room to say, hey, this is who I am, this is what we do, and it's the perfect networking opportunity for our veterans. So with that said, I didn't see it. I got about
3 minutes.
Perfect.
About 3 minutes.
3 minutes.
Okay,
So,
anyone
any
have
questions?
a question for Joe? Any questions? Well, I will just say thank you both for your service. We appreciate it so much. Joe, what have you heard from Ward 4 specifically? Issues, concerns, things that pertain specifically to that ward?
So Ward 4, the biggest thing, as soon as I said I want to run for city council, I think I was five or six emails or people coming up to me and talk about the drainage, the stormwater retention going on down there in Jasper, down by Union Springs. Yeah, okay. That was one of the first things, and I've driven through there. I don't live that far south, but I went and drove through there, and yeah, you're right. It was a mess for a long time. I think we see that moving now. It had to be re-engineered, but they are moving forward in fixing that. I get a lot on the roads, so we're wanting to beef up South Broken Arrow, but again, we don't have the roads to get into South Broken Arrow. Outside of that, workforce has been pretty quiet, other than, you know, what are you going to do for us? Well, I'll do whatever you need me to do within reason. Whatever benefits the city as a whole. So what I want to be careful of, I don't want to spend all of the money in warfare. I'd love to, but I think the other counselors of those words would say no. But it's got to benefit the entire city. So come with those ideas. Let's take that and run with it. And let's make Broken Arrow to continue to be the fun, free, and safe city that it is.
And what do your kids think about you running?
Well, so I did my kickoff at the end of January, and I don't know if it was my oldest or youngest, said, "Man, Dad, you're kind of funny." So I guess it brought out the comedian of me. I don't know really what. I think they're excited. Look, they're 17 and almost 15, so I think they're a little oblivious to what's going on as far as the time and everything. But they know I'm doing it. They've helped knock doors for me. They've put out signs. My oldest, my 17-year-old, her and her sister will go out and deliver signs for me. So they're very supportive.
All right, last call for questions for Joe. I think we're good. Thank you, Joe, very much. Okay, and last but not least, we have Ward 3. We have incumbent Christy Gillespie and Mike Lester. We did not hear any response from Mr. Lester, so we're going to give Christy the floor now.
Well, that's what happened to me 4 years ago when I kept trying to call him. I never got a response. Okay, what are my rules? Because I wasn't here at the beginning.
I'm so sorry. You have 12 minutes to spend how you want. We'd like you to, if you can do half and half, that'd be great. But introduce yourself, what are your plans, your visions, your goals, whatever you want to tell us about yourself, and then we'll open it up to questions.
Okay. All right. So, Christy Gillespie, and I ran 4 years ago because nobody was really paying attention to South Broken Arrow. That is why I ran. And it was right at the time that research was closing, and I would go and make videos, and it was so sad, what was happening there. And so that is everything that I ran on. And to be honest, I would have never run for city council at all if the counselor that was in office at the time had ever answered a call or responded to me when I tried to talk to him, whether via phone call or in person. So after I ran and won and started working on what was important to me, a little thing happened called 2020, and I never really thought I'd have to kind of delve into that part of me that tried to figure out, okay, what do I believe? What do I believe in the Constitution? And God doesn't call the qualified, but He qualifies the called. And that's really what happened to me. And in general, I have grown so much into my leadership as in the past 4 years, because I remember 4 years ago when I was doing these forums, I would literally be shaking. I would just be shaking in my boots. And I still get a little nervous, but I would get so nervous that my mouth would be so dry I could hardly talk. And something that I say a lot is I do not work for the city of Broken Arrow. I work for the citizens of Broken Arrow. And I do think there is a difference. And not every elected official believes that. They feel like they work for the government, but I don't. I work for the citizens. And there is a big difference in that. So 4 years ago, on my flyer, I committed to bring more jobs and sales tax revenue to Broken Arrow, specifically South Broken Arrow. I committed to more jobs and dining options and an event venue in South Broken Arrow. These were all on my flyer. I committed to fostering partnerships between the city, the school district, and the chamber. And I committed to continuing advocacy with legislators. And I am so proud because when I stand up here, the one thing that was on my flyer that I have not accomplished yet, which is happening, is a hotel in South Broken Arrow, and we're going to make that happen. But if you think about it, so right now, the Revitalizing South Broken Arrow, we are right smack dab in the middle of, it's not called the 101st and Elm anymore, you guys. It's called New Orleans Square. And when you hear teenagers talk about 101st and Elm, they say New Orleans Square. They do not say 101st and Elm. And that is a huge thing. I know that some people in the room, and I won't mention who, couldn't figure out how she was going to drive through New Orleans Square because we have the medallion in the middle, but it is flat. You do not have to go around it. You can drive right over the top of that blue pavement. And if you want to complain, I'll give you the mayor's phone number. Which I did today. So another thing I committed to, I committed to more sales tax. And you guys, in 2020, when we kept our city open, you know what happened? We had record-breaking sales tax in Broken Arrow. Yeah. And, record-breaking. While other cities were in the negative, Broken Arrow had record-breaking sales tax. And our sales tax has done nothing but increase since then. And that says something about whenever we did give our businesses a choice. We said, do you want to stay closed and not pay your employees and, go under like so many other cities did? Or do you want to stay open? Do you want to pay your employees? Do you want to keep making money? Do you want to keep having an income for your family? And guess what they chose? Our businesses chose to stay open and to see their customers. And I mean, what a testament that is to the citizens of our community, but also what happened was people started hearing about us. There were people in California and New York that watched Broken Arrow City Council meetings, and they were like, hey, I like what they're doing there, and I'm not just going to move to Oklahoma, but I'm going to move to Broken Arrow because they are the freest city in that state. And so, whether or not you want to put a mask on your face, that is totally up to you. But you know what? I will never be so condescending as to tell somebody what you need to wear on your face or what you need to jab into your body, because that is not my place. I will continue advocacy with legislators. One thing, of course, our sales tax goes to pay for all the operations of our city. And so it's so important when people say, well, what does that have to do with police and fire, with public safety? Well, it pays for that. But do you know what else? Is advocating with our legislature. Because we now have the legislature last year passed a public safety district. And or they passed the ability for us to pass public safety districts. Now we're having some issues. We need to figure out whether it's actually legal. So we're going back to the legislature to figure out how we can make those public safety districts legal so that we can put that on the ballot eventually for our citizens to decide whether or not that's something that they want for our city. But that's going to help tremendously with public safety. I do have endorsements from many legislators and some things that I want to do coming up. We're currently working on a housing study so that we can talk about, what is important to our citizens. We do need affordable housing in our city, but we want to make sure that we're very decisive and that we make good decisions for all of that. Connectivity is important to me. And you'll see that by all the sidewalks that I've advocated for. And so, just again, that record-breaking sales tax and The person that's running against me now was a part of the Good Old Boy Club for many, many years. And I have nothing against men. Women can be good old boys too, or good old girls. I do know the difference. I will say that. I do know the difference between a man and a woman. But he said he did not resign as mayor. He did. But he said he stepped down because of pressure from a fringe group. Yeah. So I ask you this, because I was part of that fringe group. I was one of those citizens that did not want a casino 5 blocks from my house. Amen. But can you imagine if somebody who stepped down because of pressure from citizens, because of that, what would that same person have done in 2020 with the pressure from the citizens? So I want you to think about that, and I will answer questions.
All right, any questions for Christy? All right, Josh, you got that one?
Thank you all for coming out. Well, George, if either one of you get elected, don't talk about roads in South Broken Arrow till after New Orleans Square is finished. South Broken Arrow, our neighbors will eat you alive. And I'm not saying who I'm voting for. Okay, Lester. He was on the city council since I was a small child. Is he coming up with anything new that we should know about or that you might be concerned about?
I haven't
We've seen his
or
whole
heard of him. Yes. So he did serve on the planning commission 18 years and was on city council for 12. So it was a total of 30 years. But honestly, I haven't seen anything new but I can't speak to that, and unfortunately he's not here.
Something surprise us on Wednesday night.
Thursday, yes.
It'll be a big surprise on Wednesday.
Yeah.
On a more positive note, Chrissy,
Yes.
you had mentioned New Orleans Square, you had mentioned sales tax revenues. What's that look like over there?
So I'm so glad you asked. In the Rose District, we have spent over the past 10 years $54 million in the Rose District through our TIF and all of that, and just other bond issue money and all that. In New Orleans Square so far, we have spent about $4.6 million, and part of that was money that the citizens did vote on. As of right now, New Orleans Square sales tax brings in 3 times that of the Rose District. Yeah. So it is more than paying for any improvements that we're doing in New Orleans Square right now.
Is there anything to the idea that your opponent has got the casino money, people behind him again, trying to get him in office? Have you heard anything about that?
Just look where the signs are.
That's right. Yep, I'll leave out there, by the way.
Yeah, look where the signs are. I have my signs on. I want my signs in yards because yards equal votes. And the places that I have my signs that are not in yards, most of those, actually though, the developer at Aspen Ridge did let me put my signs there. That's where the brand new Reesers will be breaking ground in a couple months. Or I'm sorry, a couple weeks hopefully, but for sure within a couple months be breaking ground. And so my signs are there on that land, but every other property that I have, that if you see my signs are also in those people's yards that live in Broken Arrow. But when you see signs on developer properties, and I have, I haven't turned down very many things that developers have come across, or have asked for, but I do have questions.
One last question? You got 30 seconds.
Okay, it's kind of a two-pronged question. You talked about affordable housing. Are you talking about houses, or are you talking about apartment complexes or multi-story apartment buildings? I don't want Broken Arrow that I just moved to a year ago to turn into New York.
Right. So that is what the housing study is all about. And so that we can determine, because obviously as young people, I mean, we want to have young people living in our city. So we do have to figure out ways that we can have housing in our city that young people can buy. And so first-time home buyers can actually afford. But at the same time, we want to make it, we want to be smart about where we place all of our developments. And so that's why this housing study is really important, so that we can really make good decisions and have discernment about that, because it's not an easy subject for sure. But I agree with you. I have voted against some apartment complexes.
Okay.
One more question.
Just because you're the first mayor, man.
Thank you. Dude, first dude, it's important.
First dude.
Any comment on bells coming broken out?
Next question.
Actually, time is up, so. Okay, thanks, Christy. Everybody thank Christy. I just want to say thank you guys for running. I know it takes a lot out of you, a lot of time, and it's a whole family endeavor, so I just want to acknowledge your spouses and kids, your relatives. It affects everybody, affects your jobs, so thank you, thank you, thank you. Thank you for running. Thank you for coming tonight to this. They're going to be hanging around in here, out there. They have flyers and signs, so you can hang around and talk to them. Can we give a big thank you to Brian Dean for opening this place for us? And just to wrap up, it's been my honor to host tonight. If you're not familiar with Moms for Liberty, we meet once a month at Evergreen Church in Bixby. Moms for Liberty is mainly focused on education and legislative issues. So we educate and empower parents to protect their parental rights on all levels of governments. Our next meeting is tomorrow night at 6 p.m. at Evergreen if you'd like to join us. Thank you guys for coming. Have a great night.
Thank you, Shelley Gwartney, as well. Thank you, everybody. And like Shelley said, right next door we got everything for the candidates. Thank you, guys.